I am going to go Facebook Live now, just so you know. Should be good.
I have 6:27. We'll go ahead and call to order the meeting of the Reynoldsburg Board of Zoning and Building Appeals for Thursday, August 18th, 2022. Ms. Butler, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart, absent. Ms. Bowles, absent. Mr. Davis? Mr. First?
Here.
Pastor Linder?
Here. Next item is approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of July 21st, 2022. Are there any additional changes, additions, deletions needed to those minutes? Hearing none, those will stand as approved. Next item is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes necessary to the agenda? Seeing none, those will stand as approved. Next item is swearing in of speakers. If you plan to speak this evening, we'll ask you to sign in. I think everybody probably has, but if you could stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you affirm or swear that the testimony you give in front of this board is truthful? If so, say I do. You may be seated. Thank you. Next item is public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any items this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. First item on the agenda is application 2022-5271, a setback variance for Briarcliff and Maine. Staff, did you want to tee us up?
Okay, so just to give a little background and refresher here. So this site is in front of what we all call the old Kroger. It's adjacent to the Ohio Health Facility and, you know, right down the road from, or in the same shopping center as Massey's Pizza. So this is also in front of the, I guess, caddy corner to the Aaron's as well. So this is an out parcel. Obviously, it's going to be split off, so there's no specific parcel delineation for this, but it's East Main and Briarcliff. And what I've got in front of you, just a refresher for everybody, last meeting this was approved for conditional use. So the conditional use to do a drive-through, really it's a quick service drive-through for the Caribou use, that use was approved. So now we're back to the setback variance, which was tabled. So what we've got in front, last time there were some comments from some of the board members and fairly so about, okay, there's an existing easement, and you can see it's in orange here on the map. There's a existing city easement here for a couple of things, landscaping. It's covered by the blue area, but you'll note there's a wall, there's some sprinkler heads, there's some other things in the ground that were covered by this easement. This was put in over 10 years ago, and after doing some investigation, working with our city engineer and our city attorney, what you have in front of you, the blue area, that's going to be the extent of what the new easement would look like, that the city would be trying to approve and do with this project. So the city's the easement holder, so we would modify it and propose modifying it to what you've got in front of you. So for that easement, you know, you wouldn't be able to build on it or anything like that. It's kind of protecting the features that are there. So you'll note, to give some background, it goes roughly from where the applicant's proposing to do their draw aisle down to slightly in front of the sidewalk. So that's the easement area. So as you can tell, looking at this, as a result, the applicant can't build up into the street like what the code would like here. So there's an area where they wouldn't be able to build. So that's what this is depicting, and that was the intent of this exhibit, is to show you, if this project moves forward, how the city would modify the easement. So that's, just wanted to kind of pause and see if any of the BZBA board members had any questions on this. I know this is kind of a technical thing, so before we move on to the applicant's Q&A and question and answer, just wanted to make sure everybody was clear about what this exhibit is depicting.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Meyer. I do appreciate the city attorney and city engineer's work on this. I think this exhibit is very helpful to have us understand exactly what's going on here. the applicant also made this assertion that they can't build up to, let's call it the edge of the blue there. I'm not certain that's true based on what I'm looking at here. You know, I do understand that the existing easement, as it stands now, the unmodified version does go much further back. It looks like beyond the rear of their proposed building site. But I guess, at least from my perspective, I'm trying to understand why, if we compare this to the Ohio Health building that's adjacent there, we can see the water main, see things like that. I guess, from my perspective, don't understand why the front setback couldn't be much closer, in fact, in line with the Ohio Health building, based on this exhibit.
So there's some water feature or water piping there, as well as what's not in front of the Ohio Health building is the walls here go further back. I would tell you, this was put together by EMH&T, our city engineer, and consulting with, in addition to legal, William Dorman, our service director. So this is what they felt was appropriate and reasonable. So, you know, as far as how this compares or why the Ohio Health building was different, I don't have an answer for you other than this was multiple meetings and conversations working together over several weeks to kind of line it up with this. So this is staff's best effort and best understanding of what could go here. So I don't know what that does for you, Mr. First, but that's, I guess, the best answer I got for you.
You may try being a lawyer in your next career.
Okay, so it seems like before I wanted to pause, are there any other questions about this document before we kind of moved on? Okay, so, and this is the site here, and there's some of the walls and the features that I was mentioning. There's also some buried sprinkler heads and some features like that. Melissa, could you go back to the exhibit from the applicant now, please? The next tab, please. So after the last meeting, the applicant took some feedback from BZBA and provided this new exhibit laying out some changes they talked about. A couple examples here you can see on the bottom right. That's they talked about access for sidewalk pedestrian access. So that's a new feature. So they did some modifications to try to adhere a little bit more to what BZBA was saying. You can also see the overhang, the roof overhang is a little bit closer and covering some of the drive aisle there, which was not there previously. So it's an updated exhibit and a little bit of tweaking based on some comments, at least their filling comments that you folks had at the last meeting. So that's the substantive change in terms of the questions here for the variance. With that, I'm going to kind of pause and ask the applicant to come up, and I would hate to kind of, go over their changes. I think it's best for them to come up and kind of talk about their intent here and why they made these changes, and open up the floor to any questions or comments they might have. So I'd look for the applicant to come on up.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate the detail that you provided for me here. So first off, the big concern that BZBA
I'm going to stop you right there. Sorry. Would you mind just identifying yourself?
Sorry. Yeah, so it's Reese Moore, 6640 Riverside Drive, Suite 500, Dublin, Ohio, 43017. And we're with Crawford Hoyne. Thanks again, Eric, for the introduction and detail that you provided. So the big things that Eric touched on, and I'll kind of reiterate here, was the pedestrian walkway that the BZBA, wanted to see with this new district that was created in 2020, that we have now shown, and I spoke about that we would show, but it was kind of hard to talk about something that was not on our plan before, and really, get into detail about that. But as you can see, we have a very strong pedestrian walkway that will enable pedestrians to get from the sidewalk to our patio and pickup window. Bicycles can use that as well. The building, to answer your question, Mr. First, about why is the building not closer to that easement, is because we want to make sure that the drive-through is in front of the building. And with every drive-through, we like to have an escape lane for if somebody wants to get out of line. It's taking too long or, whatever it is. It's kind of for safety reasons as well. So that would also extend that, our building farther back. Also, I will add, or I'll just point out again that there is 6 more inches on that overhang. So we are trying to get that closer to the street as well. And then I will, I don't know, Eric, do you have the old site plan that I have copies here that I can pass out to the BZBA members. First one is just what you're looking at right now. And then the one under it is with the drive-through. And what we, want to make sure that we hammer down is that, the safety, of people that are parking, and walking through the drive-through. Rather than, sorry, I was looking up at the screen. The people that are walking from the parking lot to, the patio, they're walking right through the drive-through. Whereas, our plan, most of the walking would be from, not through the drive-through, because our stacking is situated different and our drive-through is actually in the front of the building. So with the pedestrian walkway and how our drive-through is situated, we believe that this would be, safer for pedestrians and customers. And then I will add that the way that we have laid it out in comparison to the consultants that you guys hired was it allows for more stacking and less overflow into, more common areas onto the access drive or into the parking lot. So, with those safety reasons and, stacking and the configuration of our site plan, we believe that, the setback that we are asking for is really what will, help this be the best site plan for us. And we also did address, as best as we could, taking the setback from 20 feet to just under 16 feet at 15 feet, 11 inches. And with that, I'll willing to answer any questions that BZBA may have.
Thank you. I do appreciate your efforts to ameliorate some of our concerns here. So I guess one of my biggest concerns is, while I appreciate the walkway that you put in there and the attempts to connect it to mass transit and pedestrian traffic and things like that, I feel like you more or less are creating a safety issue by having it cross the drive-through. So that's one of my concerns. And then maybe you could speak a little bit about, this seems to be primarily a auto-oriented business, that the majority of your business is going to be drive-through. And so exactly how many park and walk-up type customers, do you expect to serve? I mean, I feel like if we were weighing the least evil here, it seems like there would be a lot less of a safety concern for if we were to go, for instance, with the consultant's rendering here. I feel like there's going to be a lot less consumers who are going to be patronizing the business by parking and walking up. So if there is a concern from an accessibility or safety standpoint that they may be crossing the drive-through lane from their vehicles when they're parked there to access your building, seems to me like there's probably going to be quite a few less of those, I think, than might approach it from mass transit or bike or things like that. Just trying to find the least bad
Of course.
iteration here. The,
I just want to add a comment, because I didn't distribute that drawing that he was referring to from OH, and that was if you would adhere strictly to the code, but that was before we went down this road on the easement. They weren't aware of that, so I will tell you that their updated report does say that there is definitely a case for an easement here, or I'm sorry, a variance here for setbacks. They do not say, what exactly that distance would be because of the proposed easement. I will leave that to you guys to figure out if you feel this amount is correct or not, but I just wanted to give that detail only because I purposely didn't distribute that drawing only because I didn't want to create any confusion or anything like that. So if I'm creating more confusion here for you folks, I apologize, but just wanted to comment on that.
I mean, it's clear you did, at least, or maybe the city did, someone did, try to investigate other remedies available within the code, such as the consultant's rendering that's been provided to us here. Talk to me a little bit more, I guess, about the stacking issue. I mean, I understand this may be a new concept for Caribou. So, I mean, what would be a typical volume of traffic that you might see here? What sort of stacking might we reasonably expect, assuming that, there's not just a run on this location, considering it's, new back to the region again?
Yeah, no, for sure. So this is, we really do like this site, and we had Caribou in town, and they, really approved this site and love what's going on in Reynoldsburg, and they love that it's Morningside. So we're expecting to see a decent amount of stacking. Most cities that we've been talking to require, 8, 9, 10 stack. And, we hope to see much, much more than that, especially during the morning hours. So what this would allow for would be for an additional, 4 or 5 or even 6 cars before you would even get off of the parcel. And hopefully our operations team, which we totally believe in them, will be able to get cars through quick enough that would never be any, leakage onto the access road or the greater parking area.
Maybe you could just describe a little bit more into the record, not to harp on this too much, but to speak very frankly about the documentation that's been provided here. I read a lot of assertions, but not a lot of arguments necessarily about why there's a hardship and how strict imposition of the code creates a hardship for you. So perhaps you could maybe expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that the main hardship would be, what Eric has spoke about, and I'm, would love to hammer down is that, we need to be building away from that proposed easement area.
Well, I guess maybe my question that you haven't answered is why? Because that seems like that's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, so exactly. With wanting the drive-through in the front of the building, this creates a way better stacking arrangement for us, and for the community and people that are coming in and out. There's a way less chance of overflow onto the access road, we just feel that this was the safest for, guests coming to our business, and, that's how we feel.
I am inclined to agree in that regard. I do feel like this particular layout is safer in that it does provide a lot more overflow in terms of stacking, and I appreciate having the majority of the pedestrian walkways and patios on the far side of the building as opposed to the street side, because Main Street is pretty busy, and if a car is to jump the curb, the only thing protecting those people at tables in the previous rendering is shrubbery, but there's a building and cars. assuming that someone's in the drive-through, but I'd much rather have those people seated, shielded by something else. I have a preference for this particular.
I wish that it was that our preference was a factor that we could consider. Unfortunately, it's not. So if I seem, a little harsh here in the questions, I'm unfortunately just trying to evaluate it based on the factors that are presented here in the code. Do you contend that there is a deprivation of beneficial use of the building if we weren't to grant this variance, or the site, I should say?
I do, yes.
Such that, because I realize that, and we, obviously, the city that is, weren't even aware of all of the issues with it until the easements and right-of-ways were explored. If you knew about those restrictions, would you maybe have considered another site, If we weren't to grant you this variance this evening, would this project be more or less dead?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have a second?
Please.
This is Pastor Leonard. Talk to me a little bit more about that peak volume in the mornings, what that would really look like. And I know you can't guarantee, but what would you hope to see in a normal morning as far as that stacking and what kind of business flow, what that morning looks like? And how
Of
that-
course, the peak hour for Caribou is between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m. And what the average time for this cabin concept, mostly drive-through only, is around like a minute and 15 seconds between ordering and picking up your drink. So if, currently if there's 9 cars stacked in the site plan that we have, and, ends up being, 13 or 14 cars there, we believe in, our ability and our operator that, that's never going to overflow. And we would love to have, 14 cars in there for 2 hours at peak period. But this plan would allow for, if for whatever is something bad that's going on in the restaurant or whatever, for whatever reason, there's a delay, it would allow for, any mishaps.
And thank you for that. I may not have steered you in the right direction, but I guess I want to get a feel for how many people will be benefited. If you're really operating at maximum effectiveness, how many, and I guess I should get a calculator out, but how many people really could benefit from being able to stop by here in a great morning? What's happening in that business as far as, and I guess if I took that number of 14, but if you guys have that number, that'd be great to hear. I'm interested, how many of us you project will be benefiting by that each morning?
Do you mean
How many customers, how many people will get the benefit of this activity, this opportunity?
I think that with this location, and being Morningside for people that need to get on 270, or even just businesses between this site and 270, I think that a great amount of people will be able to benefit from this. I know that there's a Tim Hortons just west of here, and this site layout will get people in and out of the site with their drink in hand way quicker and way more efficient.
I appreciate the answer, and just to speak to that, I agree with Mr. Franklin. I'm more comfortable with the layout as is. I also think there could be some pedestrian activity at other times, off-peak times, coming through the parking lot just because of human nature. It wouldn't hurt to see some other type of marking off the back side of that as people cross through. I'm not in a position to demand that. But the other thing is, I do believe there's benefit for our community having this here. I do believe that what you've stated about not understanding fully what you were confronting previous to purchasing the site as a true concern. And I tend to lean more towards there are a good number of people that would benefit from this opportunity. It's been a long time to have something new added in this general vicinity that would serve this purpose. That's just some thoughts.
Pastor Linder, I just wanted to stop you right there. Reese, just for the record, I believe you guys are have an agreement on this, but you have not purchased this property, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to, for the record, that I believe you have a contractual rights to it, correct? But you haven't closed on it or anything like that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So when we were tabled last session, we put more hard money down on our contract to be able to come back before you guys and show you this plan, but we will be closing on it as soon as we get approval.
I just wanted
Yeah, and
the record to state that Pastor
Thank
Linder
you.
was.
Thank you.
And we were also waiting on the lot split, which was approved last week. So the city did approve the lot split.
Gotcha.
I can just for the record, I can say we did. The owner is Arshot Development, and they did indeed submit a lot split application. The city has approved it. They have informed me that they would not be filing it with the county to actually make it effective unless this project went forward, just to give you the facts.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. Just the setback on the building itself, do you have any idea where that setback would be in relation to the Massey's Pizza that is right there?
Kind of see it on this.
Oh, it's clear on that one. Cool. Okay, that makes sense.
Mr. Franklin, I just have those visuals. I don't have a number. I could get that, but I don't have it in front of me, the exact distance, other than being able to kind of pull it up on Google and let you eyeball it.
Gotcha. No worries, I got it up over here. Just from my eyeballing, it looked like it would have a similar setback to the buildings would have a similar setback. Just eyeballing it. Because I have a 2-lane drive going around that way. It just seemed as if it might be in line with that Massey's Pizza.
There's a very, very rough approximation that I would in no means stand by in front of you on the screen, but that's a rough number. But as I should know, Google is not accurate, but that's the best we can do at this
Yeah.
exact time.
Appreciate you.
Is the variance that you're requesting for the setback here, do you believe that's the minimum amount of variance that would accomplish your purpose and allow you to have beneficial use of the property?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, if anyone would like to make a motion one way or another, I'd certainly entertain that.
This is Pastor Linder. I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as indicated on the minutes,
Sure.
on the agenda, the way it's described on the agenda. My bad. I should have read it. Forgive me.
We have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
First by Pastor Lynch, seconded by Mr. Davis. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Davis?
Yeah.
Mr. First?
No.
Pastor Linder?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Just, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe since we have three, a 2-to-1 is not sufficient to pass, correct?
I am of the opinion that this constitutes a quorum of this body,
Okay.
and that the majority vote carries.
I appreciate it. I ask only because I wanted to make sure I was 100% clear, and therefore, if I wasn't 100% clear, I didn't know if the applicant would also be 100% clear. So to clarify, Assistant Attorney Lease, 2-to-1 is the affirmative and therefore would be via passage, correct?
Essential for the passage of this, yes.
Thank you for correcting me on the record. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Next item on the agenda is application 20225271 for signage. We're still at the podium.
Yeah.
I don't know if staff has.
Yeah,
anything
I
to
have
add,
just a
but,
quick update. We didn't get to this one last meeting. Just to recall, we because the board asked for some additional
I'm
information.
sorry, may I interrupt?
Yes.
I know that carried.
Yep.
That motion carried. Can we identify the section by which we are granting that variance specifically?
We did not in the motion. So in the interest of setting the record straight, Pastor, would you like to amend your motion to reference section 1109.13D?
Yeah, I'll just verify that I understand the best way to do it.
For purposes of the record, Pastor Lindor, I would ask if you could please to specify specifically within section 1109.13 pertaining to variances, which subsection you are referencing in granting, or should I say moving for the granting of the variance.
Understood.
Yep. Do you need?
No.
I'll just send you this. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
This is Pastor Linder. With the permission of the chair, I'll restate that motion.
Please.
I do make a motion that we approve application 20225271 for a setback variance, and I am noting in my motion section 1105.13.
It's actually 1109.13,
Okay, 1109.13.
subsection D.
Subsection D, section, paragraph 1, and paragraph 5, paragraph 4, then I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
This is Mr. First. I second.
You're going to second it?
Yeah. So you have to call the roll again?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. First?
Yes.
Pastor Linder?
Yes.
Nice and clean. Thank you, Mr.
Now,
Lee.
it certainly is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Attorney Elise. Okay, on to the next item that's on your screen. So this is, just to refresh everyone's memory, last meeting, we did not get to talking about signage variances. We tabled it because the variance for the setback was tabled. So this is not something that we've discussed in front of you folks before. So there's really a couple of variances. Actually, there's three kind of built in here. So first, it is for having two wall signs. So for those of you who may not know what a wall sign is, that's literally what you'll see in front of you. It's up on the kind of upper top of literally on the wall of the building. Our code allows for one. Typically, it's to be facing the major street. So the major street I would interpret here as Main Street. And then, so the applicant is asking for one on the south side and one on the east side. They are of appropriate size, meeting our code. It is strictly the having two versus one. That is the variance for that. And then we have a variance for a monument sign. The monument sign is of the appropriate location. The issue with the monument sign, and Melissa's slipping to it here, is the height. You're allowed a 6-foot tall monument sign here. This looks to be about 10 feet based on the OAH abbreviation there. So the monument sign is larger than we require. Also, the materials here are a stone. It's supposed to be brick, really, here. Based on the OHM review, their guidance on this is the stone seems like, a natural, nice material and seems reasonable based on just their reading of this. Their feeling is that the height of the monument sign as well as the additional wall sign is not warranted. Having said that, that is their opinion. Obviously, they're not on BZBA. And then I would ask, Melissa, could you go to that overhead view? There's a lot of depictions on here. I'm going to focus just on two to give you an overhead view of where this would be so you can kind of visualize it. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's the overhead map, if you would, with all those. There we go. So A and I, you can see A is kind of the center bottom right. That's the southern wall sign, and I would be roughly where that eastern one would be, I believe. So you can see Main Street's to your south. So, reading of the code would say your wall sign would go along that Main Street side. They're asking for one on the east side. So that's the wall signs. And then, as I mentioned, the monument sign is for height and the material. So that's what we're covering here for signage. I would also note, I think there might have been a question about, what's a natural materials. That is in my reading of it, a planning commission question, not a BZBA question in terms of what's the color and hue of the Caribou building. So that's what we've got in front of us is just the monument sign's height, the materials, which is that stone, as well as the additional wall sign. And just to refresh, the two wall signs are the appropriate size per OHM. It's the additional wall sign that is the variance they're asking for here, as well as the monument sign's height and materials. So hopefully I haven't confused you folks, but that's what's going on there. And I will turn it over to the applicant to explain why they're asking for these variances.
Do I need to go through my name again, or am I good? Okay. So I appreciate the in-depth detail there, Eric. The main reason that we are asking for this additional wall sign is we feel that it is really the only remedy that can, overcome the additional setback of the 5-foot minimum requirement for this specific site due to the landscape buffer of the shopping center. So we feel that because this site is so unique with that minimum setback requirement, that this would be really the only remedy to, no patrons or show patrons, that we are there and, Caribou is ready to serve them. So we feel that it is very unique, in this area, in this property particular. And that would be for the eastern side.
Before I jump in here, did you have anything else to add?
I do not.
Okay. So couple things there. That east-facing sign, I read here on this diagram H. I understand that is going to be where your new proposed monument sign would go. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, wouldn't the patrons of your business be served by the monument sign just as well? I mean, certainly the monument sign is much closer to the road, larger.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because the building is sitting up higher, people that are heading west on East Main, heading, for our busiest hours in the morning, it'd be much easier for them to identify our building based on the signage up above.
Is that also an argument for the increased sign height on the monument sign as well?
Yes, so the main monument sign, that is the center monument sign, is a little bit in the way, obstructing the view of our current monument sign, where it is placed in H. So we feel that the additional height would, give us a little bit of help there in identifying our property.
Well, as far as the uniqueness is concerned, I mean, we did just previously establish that your building setback would be roughly about as far setback as your neighbors there, that and the Masseys. So how exactly is this unique in that it's more or less like a neighboring property now?
For which sign?
Yes,
Both?
yeah.
So I honestly am unsure if Massey's has, I know that they have a sign on the facing East Main. I'm unsure if they have one that would be facing west or east. So I'm unsure on that.
Then my last question is, in regards to the material of the monument base, I certainly understand you want to keep on brand and have the stone because you're proposing stone on the building itself, but our code does very explicitly state brick. If you look all up and down Main Street, they all are brick. We've been pretty strict in asking that applicants adhere to that, just to maintain some uniformity. I mean, we're certainly not New Albany here, such that we're making you conform to very, very detailed sign standards. Would you be amenable to changing the monument base to brick?
Yes, we would.
Okay. That's all the questions I had. I mean, once again, kind of going back to, unfortunately, the variance factors don't allow us to consider, preferences or frankly, what might be best for the customers. We certainly don't want to make it set you up for failure, right? But, if we weren't to grant you the variance here, could you just have the 6-foot-tall monument sign and the other branding on your building? If you didn't have the additional signage, is that setting up the business for failure here? I certainly don't want a vacant building, but tell me what that does to your proposed customer traffic.
Yeah, no, I mean, signage is a big part of the Caribou brand. I hope that, 4 feet on our monument sign is, hopefully we're not going to go out of business on an item like that. But I would say that the signage on the building in the I location would be, very important to us. If we had to, concede on H, that could potentially, would not be extremely detrimental to us. At least I hope not. But it, certainly would be great to have that presence there with the monument sign.
Just for clarity, the size and dimensions of the second monument sign on the east side is what's on your screen now.
Mr. Meyer or Mr. Moore, perhaps you can speak to It did say on one of these drawings, there's an existing monument sign. I can't recall specifically on the site. I know there's a very large, tall monument sign on that site, but is there a line of sight problem with the additional wall sign that you're requesting for any existing signage, or is that going to be? Yeah, there we go, perfect. So I was just looking at, from a line of sight perspective, yeah, thank you. I'm just trying to envision in my mind, I would hate to grant you this variance here, but your potential customers still couldn't see it because there's the tall Kroger monument sign still in the way. It seems like that would not be helping them at all. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if that was constructed before the new code or not. I don't recall, I don't know the answer to that, but that would be in terms of what is a wall sign, what is a not wall sign, that would be a wall sign on the face facing it's the south side of the building facing Main Street.
The Massey's Pizza
Yeah,
predates
yes.
the new code significantly.
Okay, I wasn't here when it was on, but that Massey's Pizza, that would be a wall sign. In terms of what is a wall sign, what is a monument sign, that would be considered a wall sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I would contend that their western-facing signage on the Massey's Pizza is a non-conforming signage.
Pastor Linder, are you getting signage on that tall stand that when they enter the plaza? Will you also have something on there?
Right now, we do not have any signage there.
Will you be receiving that as a part of any agreement with that property owner? Or?
We have not spoke about that with the Schottensteins. I think that they could be in, talks with selling the center, so we're not quite sure.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So potentially my concern about that monument sign, or I'm sorry, we'll call it the Kroger sign, may disappear then, such that it would be visible if they were to sell the property behind.
It's a question. So this existing monument sign, is that outside your lot split?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not subject to your ownership at all?
No, it is not.
Okay.
No, that's Schottenstein's property.
I believe, just to make the transaction clear, and if you could state it for the record, obviously you have no formal, but my understanding is you'd be purchasing the area depicted here from the Arshaw Group, is that right, or?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And again, just to be clear, purchasing, it has not been purchased.
Just so that we can kind of fully deliberate on some of these factors that we've been going on ad nauseum about here. Can you talk about, did you investigate any other remedies that were available, different sign placements or anything like that, as far as how you wanted to identify the building and make sure that your patrons could not only identify it, but access it appropriately and things like that? What other remedies available in the code did you investigate?
Honestly, I cannot speak to exactly what was investigated, but we use Caribou's architect who does these all over the country, and that's their branding, and that's the way that they portray their buildings. So it's more off of what they have created. But to exact code, I cannot answer that, Mr. First. But I will say that the consultants that we hired with Everbright have certainly done their research on where, the sign could be placed.
More so here with the sign variance than the setback variance, I'm struggling to fully understand the hardship or practical difficulty here. I mean, this does seem more a matter of a preference or convenience. Would you like to try to convince me otherwise?
Yeah, I would say that although it would be extremely convenient for our brand to, have the signage variances that we're asking, I do believe that, the setback that this center, the minimum 5-foot setback requirement that this center has in particular does provide enough of a hardship for that eastern sign and a little bit more of a taller monument sign.
How so?
So essentially, the farther that we would have to be back, from the street would create, from the eye farther for people to, to see. So having some more presence on our building and, another logo that has more presence with some more height that we are asking for would allow for, more of a jump from, people driving in their cars.
It more or less increases their odds of identifying your brand and making a decision about whether to patronize your business.
Correct.
Yeah, as you may have noticed, I was of two minds about the setback variance, obviously having changed my vote. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm just really struggling to. I don't hear the proof of hardship here. That's just my opinion.
I don't know if I would classify it as a hardship. Benefit that I could.
Mr. Davis, I apologize. Would you mind hitting your mic button?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I was just sitting too far back. My apologies.
It's okay. I mumble. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I said, I don't see it as a hardship, but one, I guess, benefit that I could see from allowing the signage, and I don't know how large that benefit is. It's just giving people more of a heads up that a business is coming up and giving them more time to make the decision can stop or can cut down on the kind of short stop and whip into the driveway, and could maybe help more evenly distribute some of the traffic with people using the driveway there in the middle of the block as opposed to going down to the light. But again, I don't know. Yeah, that's the only benefit that I could see for the community. And I'm not sure how much of a reach that is.
This is Pastor Linder, and I'm just going to, on the record, say it's hard for me to have conviction about the hardship or finding another way to state why this variance would be required. That way, it's understood where I think all three of us are at this moment.
Yes, I do have a question for our city's attorney. Is there any language difference between So under the standards for variance, 1109.13, paragraph H, it says no non-conforming use of neighboring land. If that land is adjoining, does that, would that make any difference, adjoining or adjacent as opposed to neighboring?
Are you asking in respects to the Massey's?
Yeah.
Is that where that question's stemming from? And it's my understanding, and this certainly is before my time, and I think that my understanding of what Eric identified earlier is that this too, the Massey's is before the zoning
Sure.
change, correct?
For sure.
So you're asking me, in my opinion, whether I believe that subsection 8 here qualifies for consideration in terms of whether this is a factor that would call for the variance. Is that?
Sure, whether that's something that could be considered or not. If that's the standard, I'm a little bit unsure as to where it would fall. I know what I think, but I just.
So, Mr. Davis, it's my feeling about this that essentially me answering that question would be would essentially be substituting my opinion for that of yours as the board member in this instance.
I would also just add as the planning staff that our best practice would be to leave that to your judgment to tell us whether you feel that
Right.
that is appropriate to apply or not, and leave that to the gentleman on the board.
Fair enough.
Agreed.
And I know I have a tendency to hog the mic. I'm happy to make a motion here, unless I'd be stealing someone else's thunder.
Go for it.
This is Mr. First. I move, having duly considered the factors in section 1109.13D, I do not find proof of hardship or practical difficulty as identified in subsection 4 of the code, and therefore move that we deny this variance application as submitted.
Pastor Linder, seconds.
First and second, Ms. Butler, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. First?
Yes.
Pastor Linder?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Next item is new business application 2022-5263. Staff, I believe you had a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. First. The applicant has requested that they withdraw their conditional use application. I'm just going to read into the record, and as we've done at previous meetings when this has happened, I'm going to read into the record, then I would prefer you folks entertain a motion to accept this into the record. So I'm going to read the email now. And this is from Chris Jolly at Darren Ranker, who's the applicant's architect. Good morning. After careful consideration, Daniel has determined that he will no longer be pursuing a conditional use for the site on Bryce Road. He is hopeful that he will be able to find a more suitable site in the near future. Thank you, Christopher Jolly, Darren Ranker Architects.
This is Mr. First. I move that we accept the withdrawal of application 2022-5263.
Mr. Davis, I second.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. First?
Yes.
Pastor Linder?
Yes.
Thank you. It believes there, no other business in front of us, so therefore I move for adjournment at 7:26.